In the early 1800s, the United States began an age of rapid growth, which started with the expansion into the Lower South. During this expansion, white settlers encountered what they considered to be a large obstacle. The areas they intended to move to were inhabited by Native American tribes such as the Cherokees, the Creeks, the Choctaws, the Chickasaws, and the Seminoles. The American settlers believed that the presence of these tribes halted any further progress, and eager for land to raise cotton in, they pressured the federal government to acquire Indian territory. Andrew Jackson was a proponent of Native American removal, and from 1814 to 1824, he negotiated 9 treaties with the Native Americans. The majority of these treaties proposed that southern tribes of eastern lands exchange their land for territory out west. The tribes agreed to these treaties for strategic reasons, and in hopes that one day they would get their old land back. Because of these treaties, the U.S. gained control of 3/4 of Alabama and Florida, as well as parts of Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, Kentucky, and North Carolina. In 1823, the Supreme Court handed down a decision which stated that Indians could occupy lands within the United States, but could not hold title to those lands. This is because their right of occupancy was subordinate to the United States' right of discovery. The Native Americans wanted to protect what remained of their land before it was too late, so the tribes attempted many times to resist relocation with nonviolent methods. One of the methods they used was adopting Anglo-American practices such as large-scale farming, Western education, and slaveholding. In 1830, just a year after taking office, Andrew Jackson pushed a new piece of legislation called the Indian Removal Act through both houses of Congress. This act entitled the president to negotiate removal treaties with the Native American tribes living east of the Mississippi. Under these treaties, Native Americans were supposed to give their land east of the Mississippi in exchange for lands even further west, and those who wanted to stay in the east would become citizens of their home state. The process was planned to be peaceful, but the tribes resisted and Jackson had to force them to leave. Removal would save Native Americans from the harassment of whites and would resettle them in an area where they could govern themselves in peace. But some Americans saw this as an excuse for a brutal and inhumane course of action and protested loudly against removal. Their protests did not save the southeastern nations from removal. The Choctaws were the first to sign the removal treaty, which they did in September of 1830. Some chose to stay in Mississippi under the terms of the Removal Act, but though the War Department made some attempts to protect those who stayed, it was no match for the land-hungry whites who squatted on Choctaw territory or cheated them out of their holdings. The remaining Choctaws grew tired of the mistreatment, so they sold their land and moved west.